Hello, myself Dr. Dinesh Party. Welcome to my channel Digital Forensics for Beginners. In this video, which is titled as Cloud Forensics, the basics of the clouds are covered. Also, the video covers the digital forensics process that is to be followed in order to identify, extract, and analyze the digital evidences from the various cloud sources. The video also covers the prospective locations on the cloud from where we can gather the digital evidence against the criminal activity. So to begin with, we'll discuss about the basic concepts of the cloud. Cloud generally refers to the servers which are accessed over the internet and the softwares and the database which runs on those particular servers. So these clouds, that means the servers, are interconnected with each other to provide more reliable services. Cloud servers are generally located on data centers all over the world. So from the diagram itself we can understand that is what the cloud consists and what kind of uh, the contents the particular server consists of, like the applications, database. So those are available on the servers. Apart from that, the deployment tools, the operating systems can also be made available on the servers, and those particular in this particular details can be made available to the prospective customer of the cloud, so that they can make use of these particular facilities in order to make maybe to make their own applications or maybe for any other purposes. Now, where this particular cloud can be deployed and what are the various techniques of deployment of the clouds? Those there are mainly four cloud deployments ways or the techniques, such as the cloud, a private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, and the multi-cloud. So from the name itself, that is a private cloud, one can understand. So the particular servers are meant or been their purpose is for a particular particular organization. So some organization, they purchase or they owns the servers, and whatever the applications or other facility which have been hosted on those servers are being made for the particular organization only. In case of public cloud, so the public clouds are shared among the multiple organizations. So any organization can access that particular the contents on the particular server of the cloud. Hybrid cloud deployments, this particular deployment combines the earlier two technique, that is a private cloud and the public cloud. So it is a mix of both techniques of the deployment of the cloud. So depending on the requirement, a particular cloud can be turned as a private or the public cloud. In the multi-cloud deployment, the multiple public clouds are made available to the users or the customers of the cloud. The examples of the cloud service, that means providers, are like a Google, Amazon Web Services, and the IBM. The cloud computing is related to storing or accessing programs, apps, and data via the internet. So instead of storing those particular contents directly onto your computer hardware. In general, the cloud computing is the delivery of computing services such as server, storage, databases, networking, softwares, analytics, and intelligences. So these particular kind of services are being provided as part of the cloud computing. So as part of the cloud computing, the server, that means the service models, are generally categorized into three, that is the software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. So these service models of the cloud computing, such as software as a service, in this from the name itself one can understand the softwares, some kind of application programs are available as part of the cloud service, and that particular software is going to be made available to the customer or the client of the cloud. So an example of the software as a service is Salesforce. So this particular Salesforce application is available on the cloud, and it is made available via the internet facility to its users. Next is the platform as a service. So the from this name itself we can understand that the particular facilities such as the development tools, infrastructures, and operating systems, so they are being made available over the internet. So this particular facility, that is development tools, infrastructures, and operating systems, are available on the cloud, or on the server of the cloud, and they are made available to the prospective customers. An example of the platform as a service, are the Microsoft Azure. So this is an example uh, where the platform, that means the facility, is development tools are available as part of the server of the cloud. And the third service model of the cloud computing is infrastructure as a service. So in this particular service model, the infrastructures of the cloud is that means the infrastructure that is available on the cloud is being made available as part of the particular infrastructure is made available to the customer. So in as part of the infrastructure, the servers and the storage, so these particular the details of this particular uh, facility is made available to the customer. So whenever some servers is required to the customer, so that particular server can be made available to the customer. Similarly, the storage capacity, that means some people wants to store some information on this particular the storage space, so that can also be made available to the customer of the cloud. An example of the infrastructure as a service is the OpenStack. Now, like any other digital devices like a computer, mobiles, same way the clouds are also, and that means they can be attacked by the attacker. The main goal of the cyber attacks of the clouds are to it can be for getting access to the user data and preventing access to the cloud service. Also, this attack can be used in order to steal some sensitive information from the of the users. So there are various kinds of attacks that can occur onto the cloud. The first the attack that we are going to discuss is about the denial of service attack. In this particular attack, the attacker tries to prevent the legitimate users to access the resources of the cloud. So for that purpose, what the attacker does is they sends the bulk messages to a particular cloud, and that means they are sending the particular bulk message querying the server to verify the request. So in that case, the server remains busy in handling those bulk of message. So the legitimate customer, so they are unable to get the services of the cloud. The another kind of attack that is possible from the cyber attacker, is the malware injection attack. So in this attack, a malicious code is going to be inserted by the attacker, and certainly if the malicious code is inserted into the application program which are running on to the cloud, so whenever the particular service of that application program will be sought by the customer, they won't get the desired result. So that kind of problem will be there. Next kind of attack is authentication attack. In this particular attack, the secure authentication mechanism that is being used, the method that is being used in order to verify the legitimacy of the particular user, so that is being attacked. So like say whenever a particular user is requiring services of the cloud, so the authentication method of the cloud is being used in order to verify the credential like a username and the password. So if this particular method itself is being attacked by the attacker, then certainly the authentication method won't be able to verify the username and the password of the particular service, the client. In that case, the client won't be able to get the services. In the another kind of attack that can be caused by the attacker is a data stealing attack. So in this attack, the attacker steals the sensitive information of the particular the client. So sensitive information such as the username and the password, which are the credential, they are being stolen by the particular the attacker. So if those password and the username have been stolen, the attacker can get the access of the services which the client should be getting. So in that case, the legitimate client may be deprived of the services if the legitimate that if the attacker changes the username and the password later on. Another kind of attack that is being caused is by the malicious insider. So malicious insider are those people who work inside an organization and they may cause some kind of a damage to the cloud infrastructures. So also whatever the facility that is being provided via the cloud, so that itself may be damaged. So these malicious insiders generally they if they employee of an organization turns into a malicious insider whenever certain issues such as improper treatment of that particular individual by the higher authority of the organization, maybe also in terms of salary, in terms of maybe not giving the proper treatment to that particular employee. So those are some of the reason which may turn a particular employee into a malicious insider. Also another reason, important reason, is the greed for the money. So if suppose some attacker or the criminal gives more money to the malicious insider, if you do this, we'll make it, that means we'll pay something to you. So in that case, the some employee may turn into a malicious insider, and that those kinds of malicious insider may damage some kind of a, or may do the required kind of a things depending on the instruction that have been provided by its handler. So those are the people, so they are also required to be handled properly because they may cause some kind of a damage to the infrastructure of the cloud, or also may provide some kind of a sensitive information to its handler. Another attack that is being caused by the attacker is a flooding attack. So in this particular kind of attack, the adversary, that means the attacker, they create some kind of a fake data, and that means on the server, and whenever the server is overloaded, so by default the server is required to hand over that particular job to the nearest server. So since the server is unable to handle, is that means already it is overloaded, so it may not be able to do the required kind of a service. It may not be able to provide the required kind of service to the its users or its client. So these are some of the attacks that can occur on the clouds. Now, in order to find out the evidence from the cloud, a particular forensic process is required to be followed by the digital forensic investigator. So, in that particular process, a proper few number of steps are required to be followed by the digital forensic investigator. So, we'll discuss those steps. First step is about the identification. In this, the digital forensic investigator is required to identify whether the crime had occurred indeed or not, whether the crime actually had occurred or not. So that is required to be identified by the digital forensic investigator. So for that purpose, the digital forensic investigator is required to assess which have been recorded, which is required to assess the events which have been occurred on the server of the cloud. So from those events, the digital forensic investigator can come to a conclusion about the happening of the crime, or that means whether the crime had actually happened or not. Second steps that is to be followed by the digital forensic investigator is about the evidence collection. So the actual the evidences which are available on the cloud, so they are required to be identified and extracted by the digital forensic investigator. So the different sources of the cloud service model, such as software as a service, then platform as a service, and the infrastructure as a service. So these service model, they the logs of those particular service model provide the evidences. So from those particular logs, the digital forensic investigator is required to extract the evidences. So in case of software as a service model, the evidences can be identified and extracted by the investigator from the application log, access log, error log, then authentication log, transaction log. So these are some of the kind of logs from where the investigator can extract the evidences. In case of infrastructure as a service model, the evidences can be extracted from the hypervisor logs, the virtual machine files, then RAM snapshot. RAM snapshot means the RAM image. So a particular RAM which is available on the server. So his image is required to be taken care. It is required to be dumped, and that particular dump image is required to be analyzed because the virtual memory or the RAM, that means sorry, the RAM random access memory provides the that means the actual happening on that particular system, the information about the actual happening on that particular system, so which can be helpful to the digital forensic investigator certainly. So the what kind of information we can extract, such as the running processes, what are the process which are running at that time, and other information such as network related information. So those can be extracted from the RAM, and the firewalls and the network packets, storage logs also, and the backups. So from this particular source of information, the evidence can be extracted by the investigator. In case of platform as a service model, the evidences can be extracted from the application specific logs, also from the operating system exceptions and the malware software's warning. So the information can also be extracted by the digital forensic investigator. So after the evidence collection, the next steps that is to be followed by the investigator is about the examination and analysis. In this step, whatever the evidences that have been collected in the earlier steps, they are required to be merged, correlated, and assimilated to come out with a reasonable conclusion. So from whatever the evidence that have been collected from the earlier step, that is evidence collection, those evidences are required to be merged together, then they are required to be uh, correlated with each other, and from that the particular conclusion whether what kind of crime had occurred, what the information have been lost. So all those details, that means conclusion, is required to be made by the investigator. And the next step is about the preservation. So whatever the evidence that have been collected from the various logs of the service models, so those evidence are required to be preserved. Preserved means what, unauthorized users should not get access to those particular evidence. For that they are required to be protected from the tampering itself. Also the unauthorized user should not get access to those particular evidence. So that care is also required to be taken by the investigator. He can maintain some custody of chain custody in order to handle those particular evidence properly. And the last step that is to be followed by the investigator is about the presentation and reporting. So whatever the evidences that have been collected, and some conclusion that have been derived by the investigator, finally he has to make a report on that, and that report is required to be prepared properly so that it can be produced in the court of the law. And the court can also, that means certain it should be understandable to the court, and so that they can come to the conclusion about the crime and also the criminal, so that can be culprated. That means certainly those evidence are going to be helpful to the defending party in order to convict the culprit. So these steps are to be followed by the investigator. Now we'll discuss about the kind of evidence that we can gather from the various sources of the cloud. So the first source of evidence is the cloud log analysis. So in previously in the earlier slides we discussed about the what are the sources of evidence on the various service models. So the logs of those service models, certainly they are going to provide the various evidences regarding the activity that had occurred onto the clouds. So the various logs such as application log, system log, firewall log, network log, web server logs, and the audit logs. So these are the source of the log related evidences. That means we can gather the evidences from these logs. So the first log is about the application log. So this application is then the log is created by the developers through inserting events in the program. So whenever some application is installed, maybe some changes or who had accessed the particular application program. So such details one can get from the application log. And the system log, it contains the information such as about regarding the date and time of the log creation. Then the system generated message related to the occurrence and processes that are affected by the occurrence of an event. So those kind of the information also can be accessed from this particular system log. Then the firewall log, it maintains the information related to the source routed packets, rejected IP addresses, outbound activities from the servers. And also if suppose some user had login and he had an unsuccessful login, so that kind of details also one can access from the firewall log. Then there is a network log. So this particular log, it contains the detailed information related to the different events that had happened on the network. So the what kind of events that in it consists, that means that evidence is consist of like recording of the malicious traffic, packet drops, and the bandwidth delays. So those whenever these events happens, so their details are maintained in the network logs. And then there is a web server log. So this particular web server log, it maintains the history of a particular page request and who made that particular page request, that means the IP address of that particular client and the date and time at which that particular request was being made. So that details are being stored onto the web server log. The final, that is the audit log. This particular audit log, it maintains the unauthorized access to the system or the network in a particular manner. That means whenever some unauthorized access have been made to the particular uh, system or the network as part of the cloud, so that particular unauthorized access related details is being maintained by this audit log. Then there is the cloud storage. So the evidence can also be extracted from the storage of the cloud. So the cloud storage such as Dropbox, Microsoft SkyDrive, and the Google Drive. So from these are some of the example of the cloud storage, and we can gather the various information or the important information from the cloud storage. So what kind of importance information we can extract? So like the illegal modification or access of the cloud storage. So that can also be extracted from this cloud storage. So these illegal modification or access to the cloud, so that is happening during the uploading or downloading of file contents in storage media. So that can be detected from the cloud storage. And also one can check whether the attacker have altered the timestamp or information in the user's account. So such details like altering of some kind of a timestamp information and the user's account, apart from the illegal modification or access of the cloud storage. So those details, okay, those kinds of details we can access from the cloud storage. And then there is the web browser logs and the physical memory. So web browser logs, so generally the clients of the particular cloud, so they generally make the request via the web browsers. So the logs of the web browser like Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, or any other kinds of web browser, so the logs of those particular web browser maintains the activity that have been taken by the carried out by a particular user of the the cloud via the web browser, and those details are being maintained in the various logs such as history, cookies, and the cache. So history related logs. So those particular maintains the kind of URL which have been visited by the particular client while using that particular web browser. Similarly, the cookies, whenever a particular website have been visited by the client, so that the cookies sometimes if it is set for that particular web page, so they are also downloaded at the client side. So in that particular cookie logs, the cookies can be identified relevant to a particular web page which have been downloaded. Similarly, in the cache, the page which have been downloaded, so there a copy is being maintained. So that particular URL related to that particular web page also we can identify it from the cookies and the cache logs. And the next is about the physical memory. So the physical memory like RAM. So if the investigator takes the dump of the particular RAM, so from that he also can gather the various forensic important information such as the running processes, network packet related information, Windows registry related information. So those kinds of information can be gathered from the physical memory dump. So certainly one does not know when a particular crime is going to happen. So in that case, the cloud provider is required to they have to take the dump of the physical memory after a certain period of time regularly. So certainly it is a cumbersome process, but if the evidences are required to be identified or required to be gathered from the cloud, then certainly the dump of the physical memory is important. So these particular dump are required to be taken and they are required to be stored. So the physical memory dump, certainly they are going to provide the actual happenings on that system, because certainly the contents of the volatile memory can't be unless and until it have been overwritten by some another information, it can be removed. Like if you are having the storage information, that can be removed by the attacker, but the contents of the volatile memory certainly can't be removed unless and until it is overwritten by by some other information. So that's why this physical memory dump is of importance for the digital forensic investigator. Now there are certain kinds of tools are also available in order to extract the evidences from the cloud. So the in-case and access are the first access data FTK tools are the tools which provide the identification of the trusted data to acquire the evidences. Then F response, this particular tool is used to find the evidence related to the social networks. The Frost is an open source OpenStack cloud tool which is used for the identification evidence from the virtual disk, API logs, and the firewall logs. PRS tool, these tools are used for the authentication of online archives for providing the integrity and the privacy of the files. And the virtual forensic computing tool, it is used for handling the virtual machines of the cloud. So these are some of the cloud forensic tools which I discussed. There are many other tools are being developed by the developer in order to identify the specific evidence from a particular logs of the cloud. So thanks for watching this video on the cloud forensics. If you like this particular video, don't forget to click on the subscribe button in order to get the notification on the future video.